Hi everyone, you are watching Biology with Inshara, and in today's video we are going to talk about the topic active transport. Now we have successfully discussed osmosis, diffusion, and this is the last part of this chapter, and once we are done with this, then we are going to move on and solve some past paper questions which will involve both MCQs and paper 2, but that's for some other day. It will be uploaded shortly, but let us finish the chapter, and maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, but most probably tomorrow, we will be talking about or discussing the past paper questions, in which we will be discussing each question separately as to how one should attempt those questions and how you should expect your answer to be written, and also some of the tricks and tips like what the examiner wants from you and how you should attempt it. Okay. And I will be making more past paper question videos now on the previous topics that we have covered. I wasn't able to because I thought let's first cover up a number of chapters, and now that we've covered a number of chapters, I'm now going to be making some past paper videos for those chapters. Okay. Now, let's study active transport. So, what is active transport? That's the first question that should come to your mind when you talk about this topic. So, you need to understand that active transport is a method of transport. Now, there are three main methods of transport for the movement of substances both into and out of a cell, and those three major processes are diffusion, osmosis, and the last one, active transport. Active transport is slightly different from diffusion and osmosis, and I will explain why. Now look at this diagram here. Not a diagram, well, this is a picture that I am pointing at right now. There's a person who is running down, and there's this boulder, this spherical rock that is moving down the hill. Now you can see that this boulder here does not require an external source of energy. It is just moving by itself. You don't need to push it to get it down. It's just moving by itself, therefore implying that it doesn't need energy or maybe someone to push it or an external source of energy, because it's just going down by itself. And this is basically, this whole terminology means this is a passive process. In this picture here, the one I'm pointing at, there's this colored man here. You can see he's wearing this red shirt. You can see that he is pushing the boulder up the hill. Now, of course, this is very logical that this man here, if you can see my pointer here, the red pointer, he needs an external source of energy to push the boulder upwards. Now, the boulder can't move on its own up. It needs to be pushed by something, let it be a human or machine or an animal. And you can see that this man here is the external source of energy. So how is this man getting the energy that he needs? He's getting an energy from a process called respiration, which occurs in all living organisms, including you, me, animals, and plants, in which glucose is broken down by oxygen into energy that is utilized for maybe running, jogging, or other life activities. We will be discussing respiration in one of the future videos, but for now just understand that this man uses respiration to make energy, and that energy in the form of ATP, called adenosine triphosphate, is used to give him the energy he needs to push the boulder upwards. Now, why am I talking about a couple of pictures about some boulder? Well, the one that I'm pointing at right now, the white one, this is a passive process. A process that does not require energy. And examples of this process would be diffusion and osmosis, because diffusion and osmosis don't need energy. They're not dependent on some source or external thing. They can happen by themselves. Active transport, however, is an active process. Now, what does it mean when we say active process? Well, you can see I've written down that energy is needed. So active transport needs energy. Now, this is very, very important. Where does that energy come from? Respiration. In what form? ATP. Okay? Now, so let's cut to the chase. What is active transport? Active transport is the movement of substances, ions, or minerals from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration. That is, against the concentration gradient. This process, just like I've stated above, requires energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, this is the full form, which is made from the process called respiration, happening in both animals and plants. Okay, now let me give you a bit of a more explanation as to what I am trying to convey here. Now, let's just say that this line that I'm drawing here is a membrane. It is a semi-permeable membrane, let's say of a cell. Okay, and now these are our glucose molecules. Okay, this is our glucose molecules, and there's some more glucose molecules inside the cell, and this is outside of the cell, and this is inside of the cell. Okay, So let's count how many have I made on each side. Now for outside of the cell, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 glucose molecules here, and inside the cell we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6. Now, as stated in the definition, that active transport is basically the movement of minerals or ions from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration. Now, this whole region is a region of lower concentration, and this region here is the region of a higher concentration, because there are less number of glucose molecules here, thereby having a lower concentration, and this area has more number of glucose molecules, therefore having a higher concentration. So according to the definition of this active transport, the glucose molecules should move from, they should be moving from left to right, like this. They should be moving from left to right, from 4 to 6, because in 4 the concentration is lower and in 6 the concentration is higher. That's it. That's the basic understanding of active transport. This is a very small example, very simple, not that complicated. Okay. So now that we've understood that it is the movement of molecules from a region of lower to higher concentration, that is, from a region where the number of particles are less to a region where the number of particles are more, okay, in quantity, like from 4 to 6. Now, in O levels biology 5090, in our MCQs, we get questions based on 2 main examples of active transport. Now, they're just 2, not more than that. If you want to know, that's just for your extra knowledge. I don't mind in sharing that, but let's remain focused on our syllabus. Now, there are 2 main examples of active transport in plants. Let's first talk about the example in plants. Okay, so in plants we have uptake of ions like nitrate ions from the roots. Okay, so when we say uptake of ions, the root hair cells of a plant absorbs the ions needed for remaining healthy and to prevent certain diseases. So that happens from the process called active transport, because generally speaking the concentration of ions is less in the soil and more in the plant, so energy is needed to absorb that. And in animals, in animals, the uptake of glucose molecules from the, well, this is a mistake, it's basically small intestine, that is my mistake. Okay, let me just cut that out for you. So just understand that the uptake of glucose is done from the small intestine, which is the ileum, right? The ileum is actually a section of the small intestine, and there are actually 3 sections, but we won't be discussing that, because while just understand that our main focus is on active transport. But uptake of glucose molecules from the small intestine, let's not get into much detail, let's keep it easy for the sake of simplicity, because we will be covering more about intestines and all that in our digestion chapter. Okay, let me just get my pointer and then we'll move on. So both glucose and the ions are in a small amount, therefore energy is utilized for their uptake. Now let me give it a more better understanding. Okay, so look at this picture here. This picture where you can see a root hair cell. Now if you see this blue thing here, right, this blue thing here that I have that I have drawn here, and I've matched this with this word here known as film of moisture. Now what this means is that I've written down this as film of moisture because this is our water. This is the water that is absorbed by our root hair cells, and which then goes on to the xylem vessels. You can see it's written here. This is the root hair. See, root hair cell. Water and mineral ions are absorbed. So both water and mineral ions are absorbed, but as discussed earlier, the mineral ions, here they are. You see these small beads here, small circles, or just I've made them up for your better understanding. Yes, the one that I'm highlighting right now, they're ions. Now they're in a very small amount, and they're more in a greater amount inside the plant. So through active transport, they're absorbed. Okay, that's it, nothing more to this. Now this here is actually a villus, which is a section of the ileum of the small intestine, and this is where absorption of the food occurs when they are successfully broken down into soluble materials. Example would be glucose, and you can see these are the glucose molecules that I am highlighting. This here is the blood capillary, the red and blue colored vessels, right? This is the blood capillary where food is delivered in the blood. This is where food is absorbed like glucose and amino acids, not fatty acids. Well, there's a different vessel for that, but we're not discussing that. So these vessels here, the blue and the red region here, right, these are the vessels that absorb our glucose molecules. You can see from the arrow, and the amount of glucose is smaller outside of the villus, and the amount is more, the concentration is greater inside the vessels, right? So through active transport they move in. Okay guys, this is just for your general knowledge. Although if you're just focused on your O-level syllabus, then you may leave the video, you may just leave and you need not watch the rest of the video. But I'm just explaining this, for extra knowledge. There's some more examples of active transport. We also have endocytosis and exocytosis. This is just extra. Endocytosis is the movement of anything or maybe a substance into a cell, and exocytosis is the movement of substances or anything else out of a cell. Now both of these processes require energy, and they both happen, the movement happens via active transport, which is done using energy. And if you want examples, in our white blood cells are the best examples. What they do is that the phagocytes engulf any foreign object or material, and after engulfing, the foreign objects move in the white blood cell through active transport, and then they're digested within the white blood cell through special enzymes that are made within. Well, that's about it. That's it. I won't be going into more detail. Thank you guys thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this will help many students out. Do watch my past paper video questions that I will be making shortly. And then if you're watching this on Facebook, then like, follow, and if you're watching this on YouTube, then subscribe, like, comment, do share with your friends and families. Check out my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and as always, keep learning. See you next week.